Mummies are one of the main symbols of ancient Egypt. People are drawn in from all over the world to see dead royalty that have been wrapped up and preserved for thousands of years. In today's video, we'll take a look at the science behind mummification in Egypt, as well as why, when and how they did it. Enjoy. Although we think of mummies buried in tombs and laying within a sarcophagus, they were not always the same. The ritual changed as concepts about death and life evolved. They began by burying mummies in the sand with a few belongings, and they ended the tradition with closed boxes, coffins, and massive tombs filled with riches and art. Mummification was practiced throughout most of early Egyptian history. The earliest mummies from prehistoric times were probably accidental. By chance, dry sand and air preserved some bodies buried in shallow pits dug into the sand. The best prepared and preserved mummies are from the 18th through to the 20th dynasties of the New Kingdom, and included those of Tutankhamun as well as other well-known pharaohs. The oldest known deliberate mummy was a child, one of the Chinchorro mummies found in the Camerones valleys in Chile, which dates around 7,000 years ago. The mummification process took 70 days. Egyptian priests would treat and wrap the body. The priests would perform various rituals and prayers throughout the process. The first step in the process was the removal of all internal parts that might decay quickly. The brain was removed by carefully inserting a special hooked instrument up through the nostrils in order to pull out bits of brain tissue. The priest then removed the organs of the abdomen and chest through a cut that was usually made on the left side of the abdomen. They left only the heart in place, believing it was the centre of the person's being and intelligence. The other organs were preserved separately, with the stomach, liver, lungs and intestines placed in special boxes or jars called canopic jars. These were buried with the mummy. In later mummies, the organs were treated, wrapped and replaced within the body. Unused canopic jars continued to be used part of the burial ritual. The priests next removed all moisture from the body. They did this by covering the body with natron. Natron was harvested directly as a salt from dry lake beds in ancient Egypt, and has been used for thousands of years as a cleaning product for both home and body. Priests also placed additional natron packets inside the body. They then left the body for 35 to 40 days. When the body had dried out completely, they removed the internal packets and lightly washed the natron off. The result was a very dried out but recognisable human form. The body was filled with Nile mud, sawdust, lichen and cloth scraps to make it more flexible and more lifelike. Next, the wrapping began. Each mummy needed hundreds of yards of linen. The priest carefully wound the long strips of linen around the body, sometimes even wrapping each finger and toe separately before wrapping the entire hand or foot. To help the dead reach the afterlife and to bring good luck, amulets were placed among the wrappings, and prayers and magical words written on some of the linen strips. Often the priest placed a mask on the person's face between the layers of head bandages. At several stages, the form was coated with warm resin and the wrapping resumed once again. At last, the priest wrapped the final cloth or shroud in place and secured it with linen strips. The mummy was now complete. As part of the funeral, priests performed special religious rites at the tomb's entrance. The most important part of the ceremony was called the opening of the mouth. This involved the priest touching various parts of the mummy with a special instrument to open those parts of the body to the senses enjoyed in life and needed in the afterlife. By touching the instrument to the mouth, the dead could now speak and eat. The person was now ready for their journey to the afterlife. The mummy was then placed into a sarcophagus, which is then placed into another, and so on. In fact, a mummy can be buried in up to 8 sarcophagi, sort of like a Russian doll. 2, 3 and 4 sarcophagi were the usual amount for lords and elite members of society. Ancient Egyptians were very aware of death. In fact, some rulers would prepare years and years before their death. For example, Khufu, Khafre and Menkaure, who built the 3 great pyramids of Egypt well before their death with the intention of being buried there. They could think of no life better than the present, and they wanted to be sure that it would continue after death. The Egyptians believed that the mummified bodies was the home for the soul, or spirit. If the body was destroyed, the spirit might be lost. After death, the pharaohs of Egypt were usually mummified and buried in elaborate tombs. Members of nobility and officials also often received the same treatment, and occasionally common people. However, The process was an expensive one, beyond the means of many. For religious reasons, some animals were also mummified. The sacred bulls from the early dynasties had their own cemetery at Saqqara. Baboons, cats, birds and crocodiles, which also had great religious significance, were sometimes mummified, especially in the later dynasties. Ancient Egyptian mummies are so fascinating. These people were so advanced, and I love reading and learning about this amazing civilization. That's why I started this series, so I can share some of the amazing things these people achieved. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, then don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment telling me your opinion on the ancient Egyptian civilization. Thank you.